Hi, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Ask Elly Intuitive Insights, Your Questions Answered. Today is September 29th, and my name is Elly Molina. I am your hostess, and it is my pleasure to share with you a little bit about myself and my guest today. So, first of all, I am an author, a psychic, an educator, and a consultant. I'm a little sidetracked right now as this is a live show. And today, while we're waiting for our guest and our people to come on board, I'm going to just talk a little bit right now about some astrological happenings that are happening right now. And one of the things that is happening astrologically is that it is a Venus trine Neptune. And Venus trine Neptune today in Scorpio Pisces is that Cupid is going to be doing above and beyond his normal thing. So if you're looking for a little bit of romance in your life, today is a great day to get out there. And one of my mottos is always to look good, feel good, and smell good. This is shared with me many, many years ago from a close friend. And she said, always tell your clients, you want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to smell good, and then get out to the world. So, this morning, my guest is very special, and there's a really very special story that goes behind this. And I'm just going to wait and see if I can get her connected. Good morning,
Well,
Kerriann. Are
hi,
you on?
Elly.
Oh, there you are.
Yes, I
Hi.
am. I did it. I was
Yay.
able to get on. I'm very excited.
So, for anyone listening to the show, one of the things about doing a live podcast is making sure that the guests are always here. And because it's live, it's not something that we can go in and fix while we're doing it. So I just want to welcome all the people who are in the live room right now, Kerriann. We have a
hmm
number of people joining us live. And it is my intention that they come and ask us some questions as we continue. But I am really, really excited to have everybody here today and you.
Thank
And
you.
let me just introduce Kerriann to everybody. This is a kind of long bio, but I love it. So I'm going to tell you the story. Kerriann is an award-winning author and historian. She's written 9 books, and 8 of them um, have been awarded. And she's been in the New York Times, Newsday, Distinction Magazine. She's appeared on CBS Sunday Morning Show and The Ticket, Long Island News, and the Thinking Writer in East Hampton. She's also served on the Board of Trustees as the first vice president for the Huntington Historical Society for 6 years and as a trustee for the Green Lawn Centerport Historical Association for 3. She is the recipient of the Top Advocate for Historic Preservation and Education Award from the Oyster Bay Historical Society, the Huntington Heritage Education Award from the town of Huntington, and Women of Distinction Award from the New York State Assembly. Kerriann is also a food writer, and I have to tell you something. I am stalking her to find her where she goes to eat because she'll post some really great places, and then I write them down and I go.
I love
so,
it.
so just this is what
Yes.
stalking is all about.
Right.
And Kerriann is also the president emeritus of the Long Island Authors Group, and she's a well-known speaker. And her rooms are standing room only when she does her lectures. So you can visit her at kerriannflanaganbrosky.com, and I'm going to put that right into the live chat box. This is the advantage of having a live chat box. And anybody can find you here who's
Yes.
on the call live, and they can look up your bio.
hmm
Um, But now I'm going to share.
The other thing, Ellie, I just want to add to that. If they have trouble remembering how to spell my name, you can also get to my website through ghostsoflongisland.com.
Oh, cool.
So that might be easier to remember. Ghosts, plural.
Right.
Ghostsoflongisland.com.
I'm going to put that right in here.
Yeah. So either way, Kerriann Flanagan Broski or ghostsoflongisland.com. Or if you just Google Kerriann Flanagan Broski, it'll pop up my website.
Ghostsoflongisland.com. Yes. I love it. All right. Listen, Kerriann, I have to share the story about how and why I have stalked you for 2 years.
Yes.
And it all began in 2006 when I was still living in Great Neck, New York. And one of my favorite places is Cold Spring Harbor. So I had taken my son to Cold Spring Harbor, and we walked into the sweet candy shop, so to speak. You probably remember the Gourmet Goddess.
Yes.
So I walked into the Gourmet Goddess with my son, and he picked out all kinds of candies. And then at the counter, as I was checking out, what caught my eye was Ghosts of Long Island, Stories of the Paranormal. So I picked it up, and it was signed by the author. So I said, I got to take this. I got to take this book. So I took it home with me, and I started using it in my classroom once in a while to fill in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, between, we can't always be teaching, grammar and all of, writing and everything. The kids got to have a break. Mm-hmm. So I would read them ghost stories and stories about Long Island. I mean, They lived in Queens. It was very possible for their parents to take them out on a day trip to go to these places. Mm-hmm. So life went on. And then at the very last day, right before I was moving to Washington and leaving school, my administrator said, hey, Elly, I'm going to take you out to dinner. Where would you like to go? So I said, I want to go to what was once a very famous brothel. Yes. In Cold Spring Harbor. Mm-hmm. And it was the 105 Harbor. That was what it was called back then when I went there. And there were some wonderful stories in your book about it being, ghosts. And these stories are just incredible. And anybody who's interested, I'm not going to talk about the stories right now, but the book is amazing. So then fast forward, now I'm living in Washington, 2009, and my son and two of his friends come to visit. I bring them all to New York. And I said, you know what? You kids need to see Long Island from a different perspective. So we are going to go on a ghost hunt. And so I took them, I took the book, and we used the book as a roadmap to go looking for, we went to the candy shop, we drove past 105 Harbor, we went down the road, the most haunted road,
Sweet Hollow, right?
Road. Oh, I took them all over the place. And they're like, are we going to see ghosts? Are we going to see ghosts? Sima, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open.
I love it.
So then when I came back to New York in 2019, I ended up in Huntington. And I found out, I don't know how I even found out, that you lived in Huntington. It may have popped up on Instagram or Facebook, and you had just had a book come out. And I was like, oh my God, I got to contact this lady. This is not a coincidence for me. I've been stalking her since, not stalking, I didn't even know where you were, but since 2006, I picked up your books, and then I picked up the other one also that came out. There was a part 2, Ghosts of Long Island. And so it's been it was my go-to book during days where I wanted something to teach that was a little bit more interesting. Mm-hmm. So here we are now, a little over 10 years later.
It's a great story.
And I have you on the phone, on the internet, and I would love to just ask a couple of questions before I just let you talk.
Yes, and it's great for me, Elly, because we became like Instagram buddies over the past couple of years, and then we wanted to get together, and COVID came, and it didn't work out. But here we are. So thank you so much.
Oh, I love it, and I love the work you're doing. I'm a big fan. Can you tell?
So, I appreciate that very much.
So my first question is, what had you, you probably hear this a lot, but what had you go into this area to do this historical writing about Long Island's mysteries?
It's very interesting because my degree is actually in photography. I specialize in photojournalism, and I had worked for Newsday as an intern, and then I worked for some local papers. But I was always interested in writing, and I was moved to Huntington 30 years ago. I got involved with the Huntington Historical Society. So I saw how important it was to preserve our history here on Long Island, and especially in the town in which I was living. So I started my own column, which I was photographing and, teaching the public about these places. And I was doing a tremendous amount of lecturing. That led me to write two books in 1995 and 1997 on Huntington's history. But when you're
Oh.
researching older homes and things, there always seems to be a ghost story or two that pops up. So after I was doing a bunch of these lectures, the Historical Society said to me, Halloween's coming. Would you like to do, I know you have like one or two ghost stories in each of the books. Could you maybe put a lecture together? So I said, sure. We have our old historic Conklin barn at the Conklin House, and it seats 50. Well, my husband and I decorated and webbed it. We had things happening during the lecture, but it was standing room only in there. It seats 50. We had about 100 people trying to get in. I said, I can't believe all these people are interested in ghosts, right? So this became an annual thing. And after a while, people would say to me, this stuff is great. We love it. Why don't you write a book just about ghosts? And I wanted to be taken serious as not only a writer and a journalist, but as a historian. I didn't want to be labeled as a ghostbuster. But over time, I saw that there were, different shows coming on. You weren't thought about being crazy if you believed in this stuff, which I did. I've had a lot of religious experiences, a lot of paranormal experiences. So it is something that has always been a part of me. But I needed to, how would I learn the paranormal end of this, of what to do? So, as luck would have it, in walked Joe G Cuento. This was in 2005 or 2004. He attended my lecture. He was from Hampton Bays at the time, and he happened to be a medium and a paranormal investigator. And I think my dad, who had passed from the other side, he told me this is the guy to work with. And I asked him right on the spot, would you work with me on these book projects? And as you mentioned, Ghosts of Long Island, Stories of the Paranormal was my first book. The second one was the sequel to that. I
Mhm.
also wrote Historic Haunts of Long Island. And now this one that just was released September 13th was Haunted Long Island Mysteries. But in between that, I had done some other books. I did Historic Crimes of Long Island. That was the
Mm.
one that came before this. I wrote my first novel called The Metal, which has to do with Padre Pio, the saint who bore the stigmata. It's a very, very powerful faith based book based on a true story of what happened to me the night my father passed away. And I also co-authored an Italian cookbook in between the two first ghost books with Mr. Sausage in Huntington. So that's where my food thing gets in there as well. And I was, I had worked for Edible Long Island for a while. But with the books, though, with these books, what's been amazing about it, Ellie, is that when I started it, I was looking for historical places, but I included things that people would say, oh, well, the Amityville Horror, Sweet Hollow Road, this and that. But I wanted to show, and this is what I teach in my lectures, that Long Island is more than the Amityville Horror. Okay, we have a very rich history here that needs to be preserved. And we also have a lot of spiritual things that go on in our lives daily. So the books have really evolved into something so different and something so positive. People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw paranormal activity. Is that what you do?" And it's not. I don't go around and see blood dripping down the walls and things flying
Right,
around.
right.
It's more very subtle things. Joe and I stay on the positive aspects of spiritual communication, and we teach local history. And what better way to learn local history than through a ghost story?
Absolutely. And that is why it was just so fascinating for me when I picked up the first two books, and I'm going to go get the other ones
Mm-hmm.
very soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to, and I'm going to have you sign them for me. But
Yes. Mm-hmm.
only one of the things that I just really loved about working with these books, with your books when I was teaching, is that it did give the children I taught middle school at the time, it did give them the glimpse into how rich Long Island history was and is, and that
Mhm.
it's not just, oh yeah, Long Island, the beaches, you know.
Mhm.
So
Right.
this was really wonderful. And you know, here's the thing also from the craft point of view, your books are really well written. And that's something that is very important as, you know, as an educator and English teacher,
Mhm.
just looking at the craft alone of your books, how well written they are. You're just amazing as an author and fascinating too, just fascinating.
I appreciate you saying that because I had originally intended these books to be for an adult audience, but over the years, have gotten a lot of parents coming up to me thanking me for writing these because their kids not only were reading, but they became interested in local history and they were able to either do drive-bys at some of these places, or many of them are open to the public. And that would encourage their kids to say, Mom, Dad, I want to go to Raynham Hall in Oyster Bay, that
Mhm,
kind of thing.
mhm,
And as far as
mhm.
how it reads, I wanted it to be interesting. I didn't want it to be this boring history textbook kind of thing. So what I've done is I take the reader on the actual journey of what it's like for Joe and I to do these investigations. We interview people and you read it back and forth as if it's a work of fiction and it's a work of nonfiction. We've
Mm.
also included it. The book is interactive. It contains EVPs, which are electronic voice phenomenon. And that's our communication with the other side through recorders and what we use. It's called a ghost box, which is actually a transistor radio where the line has been cut and it continues constantly moving. And we get live interaction from the other side. So, what readers can do, we have the transcripts in many of the chapters of this book.
You took it. Which book? You're talking about the newest one now,
Yeah, the
right?
newest one.
Yeah.
It's also, we have some from the other book as well. But if you go onto my web, if you get the book, which you also, by the way, can get through my website, I
Mhm.
will personalize and sign them. You can
Okay.
purchase it directly through me if you want a signed book. But when you get the book, go back onto the website. There's a link that will put you to Joe's page, and you could literally read the transcript in the sections of the chapters and listen to the EVPs yourself on the computer, which is an amazing thing. So the book is completely interactive, and we leave it up to the readers whether or not you hear what's going on with our conversation with spirits from the other side. So it's really fascinating. People love them. We also play them for live audiences, and we have the fall book tour coming up. You could see my events on my website. There's a total of 23 events.
Mm.
16 of them are in person. And the ones that Joe are with me, we play the EVPs for the audience as well. And we show it on a screen, the transcript.
That is very cool for anybody who is in New York or on Long Island or anywhere around us. And even if they're online, I saw you do this with Joe on the webinar. I
Yes.
was on one of the webinars that you did during COVID,
Hmm.
and I watched you and Joe do the EVP, and it was totally fascinating.
Yeah.
And so, if anybody is interested, you know, please pick up some of Kerriann's books. I'm going to say, don't get just a copy. Pick up some of Kerriann's books. You know,
Right.
really.
Yeah, I have all of them listed. And also, if people are not in New York, I do have a lot of virtual events with the libraries, and you could just, sign up with them, and you could watch me from your living room and see the EVPs and the PowerPoint presentation from there.
That's so cool, so cool. And all this information is on your website, so they can go
Yes.
and they can
Hmm.
find it. Very cool. I have more questions.
Hmm.
But before I just want to share a story because that's what we love to share stories.
Right.
So I was at the Commodore Perry Hotel in Austin, Texas, and there is a room, and in the it's not really a hotel. It's a hotel, and I think I have to remember her name is. She was the caretaker. Oh yeah, her name at the Commodore Perry Suite back in the early 1900s, and her name was Laverne.
Hmm.
And they said though that Laverne's suite is haunted, and so everybody's like, yeah, sure. And I went into the Laverne suite, and as I was talking about it being haunted, the lights in the bathroom started flickering. And I was able to capture this. Now, you could say this is coincidence. I don't
Right,
know,
right,
like,
right,
how often do your lights go flicker in your bathroom? And
right.
I was videoing it while I'm going through, and I was saying, "Oh, Laverne, this is so beautiful. I love your room. I
Mhm.
can feel your presence. Ah, yeah,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and the light. Now, I don't know if I
I
could
love
feel
it.
Laverne's presence. I was just
Uh-huh.
talking to the room, okay?
Right. Hmm.
And then the light started to flicker. And I said to my son, "You see this, right?" And we had it on video. And he's like, "Yeah, I see this. Let's go." And I said, "No, we're going to stay here. We're going to stay
Right.
here. We're going to talk to Laverne." But it was just
Hmm.
really cool. And
Yeah.
I just love these things. Kerriann, if is there a particular, I'm going to let the callers in a minute ask questions too,
Right.
but is there a particular story or haunting that is, let's call it your favorite?
I have a lot of favorites, but I'll quickly tell you two. One is about William Sidney Mount, who was a genre painter from the 1800s. And this has been an ongoing story. It appears in several of my books because the communication that I personally, which I don't consider myself a medium, but everyone has abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The communication I've had with him is absolutely fascinating. And it took Joe and I a couple of years to be able to get access to his house in Stony Brook. And he has made his presence known to us through orbs, through, I mean, unbelievable. And you can listen to this on my website and hear, this is from the past book. If you go on to
Mm-hmm.
Historic Haunts of Long Island, you could read communication that we had with William Sidney Mount on the Ghost Box recording. He's appeared in my office, not that I could see him, but I could totally sense him and hear him. He has helped me write the stories. That has been an incredible thing. So that's one thing. With the new book, there is the story about his house in there, and we had phenomenon take place. Um, but the other fascinating thing, this was a totally something new for me. We were at the Long Island Maritime Museum at Sayville, and very, very haunted, great history. And we were talking to the director in their library room, which is beautiful. And they've had a lot of phenomenon in there. They have sailing trophies that go around the entire room, like on the very high top shelf. And there was one section that the trophies were missing. And I would say it was probably about 3 or 4 feet in length. And I had questioned, I said, the room is so beautiful. Why are there no trophies on that one section?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, that's because the ghost is constantly knocking them over and damaging them. And you could read this whole story about what she's experienced in the book. So after we did the whole interview, and I was getting cold spots, and so was Joe. And she had gotten a phone call. She left the room and she said, you can go around and take pictures or whatever. So we were looking around the museum. We eventually turned back around into this library room, and it was only Joe and I. And it was towards the end of the day. We were wrapping things up. So I shoot with a Nikon D80 camera. So it's a big, heavy camera with a flash, a battery pack, the whole thing. And when I'm not photographing, but I'm holding it, I have it in like my left arm and like where my elbow would bend. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
holding it like that. So my right hand was down on my side. So I'm looking around the room, and Joe just happened to put his camera up and started video, and I was in the video. And all of a sudden, my camera started taking pictures on its own. And I look and I'm like, what the heck? And I hold it up. I'm like, Joe, do you see this? And he's videotaping. I said, the camera is taking pictures. There was no self timer on. I was nowhere near the shutter. And it took 3 pictures. There was nothing of interest in it, but just the fact that they were messing around with the equipment was unbelievable to me. And I put the picture in the book. It's a crooked picture. You see Joe with his iPhone up videotaping, and I label it as a photo taken by a ghost. So that was a first for me, and that was really stood out in this particular book because I just never had that happen before.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, the things that probably happen while you're going into these homes and into these historical places,
Mhm.
could be sometimes hair raising, and you just feel their presence at times, don't you?
Yeah, I definitely do. I've developed that over the years, definitely 100%.
That's so cool. When I went to the restaurant, I have to tell you, I was like, oh, but I want to, I couldn't feel anything. It's
Right,
probably
right, right,
me.
right. But the thing is, like, you have to treat them as what they are, which they are people.
Yes.
And that's why I don't. People say, "Do you watch the shows that are on TV. I actually don't, because I don't like how they do things. They're
Right.
screaming, demanding to come out and perform. It's not a performance.
Right.
These are
Right.
people, someone's grandpa, someone's aunt, someone's parent. Treat them like people, and you get more from them.
Right, with respect,
Exactly.
totally, and that it's not just the again, this is just something. This is a little bit like a tangent, and then I'm going to open it up. But it also in the work that I do when I teach psychic development, people come to me mostly for the phenomena. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
want to bend spoons, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all interesting. It's all great, bending spoons and
Right.
remote viewing and doing all of the phenomena. But
Mm-hmm.
there's such another level to it. There's a
Yes.
level of consciousness and the level of awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
that we are all connected, and that brings us to the I guess it's not, for me, it's not even a belief. It's almost like a knowing
Mm-hmm.
that there is no time, right? So therefore, people who have passed on, that we still access them, just like you were able to, just like the entity, the spirit of
Mm-hmm.
William Morris, is that his name?
William Sidney
William
Mount.
Mount, yeah, that his spirit, his essence was able to come into you, and that you could channel him
Yeah.
or channel through him, whatever the work is that we do, that the entity of him came in so strongly to help guide you.
Yes.
And that is all for me. This is, this is my everyday life. Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing about, do I believe it or do I think it's real? For me, this is real.
Right.
So
It is. It's a
so
hundred. It's 100% real, and the books have evolved into very spiritual things too, with a lot of spiritual stories. I have, and the last chapter of this book is the communication from this young girl, Rebecca. Now, this is a modern day. Now, she died in 2016. She was a horseback rider. Her parents owned Sundance Stables in Manorville. She died in a tragic horseback riding accident. She was like on her way to the Olympics. She was 22, and the communication with her that I have had has been beyond. And the things that I've experienced, I've confirmed with her mom. And she says, it's definitely her. We're actually doing an event at the stable, fundraising event for the foundation on October 16th. But yes,
oh,
and what I do when I lecture, I teach the difference between ghosts and spirits, and that life does exist beyond this one, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and that communication is possible.
yeah, yeah. So awesome. I'm going to connect with you later. I want to find out more about the event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one thing, though, and thank you for sharing all this and your information and your wealth of knowledge. I'm going to encourage everybody on this podcast or listening to the podcast, really pick up Kerriann's books. They're phenomenal. Again, you don't know you're listening to this, but until you're reading her work and getting involved in it, and you see what she sees and how she writes, this is all just a story. So to have the experience, I highly encourage everyone to pick up at least one book by Kerriann. It's a game changer.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if does anybody have any questions at all right now, you could type them into the chat or you could call in. So I have that option here. If anybody wants to ask a question of Kerriann, now's the time. And I'll just give this a few
And thank you. I
moments.
see a comment from Josie saying, I'm loving this. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for listening, Josie.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, no comment, nobody, nothing. Okay. Sometimes people are a little bit shy.
I know, I find that too when I do my lectures. And then all of a sudden, at the very last minute, there's like 10 people that have a question.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about. So, if no one until we end, if no one's got a comment or a question, Kerriann, what's the next thing that's coming up? If people wanted to find you, they go to your website,
Mm-hmm.
and where can they can then get on to a live Zoom? Is that what you were doing?
There's a couple of things that I have. If you go onto my website, the first thing I would encourage people to do is you could sign up for my newsletter. So you would get a monthly newsletter. And then, like during the book season, you'll probably get an email once a week that tells you where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing that week. But then I have an events page, which will show you each of the events I have throughout the month of October through mid-November. And there'll be information on that. I'm not doing any webinars through myself. They're through, that's what I did last year.
Right,
These
right.
are through different libraries, but all you have to do is contact the library and sign up to get the Zoom link. and they will give you the instructions directly. That's not coming from me. But you can then also see where I'm going to be speaking in person, which ones Joe G Cuento's coming with me. I also have one lecture coming up that's a virtual for historic crimes of Long Island. Someone had wanted that.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can see all that. And like I said, you can buy the book directly through. It's free shipping and it's personalized and signed. You could get that, and you could see the other books that I presently have. The Ghost of Long Island books are out of print now since they've been out for a
Oh,
long time. So keep that copy, Ellie. It's a collector's edition, but you
I
can
will. I
get it.
will.
Yeah, you can get it in e-format. But
Uh-huh.
there's also a children's book, by the way. If
I
people are
have
interested, this was
I
a new
have that
project
one
for
too.
my publisher. They had contacted me. It's called The Ghostly Tales of Long Island, and it's by Rachel Kempster Barry, but it's adapted from my book, Historic Haunts of Long
Yeah,
Island, and it's adorable. It's
I
really,
have
really
it.
cute. So it's
I
for
have
middle range. Oh, you have it. Okay.
I have
So
that
that
one.
that one you can get. And, as well, I'm selling that through the website. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's good.
Yeah, I picked that one up when it came out.
Oh, good.
So,
I'm glad. And that came out right before COVID
I know,
struck.
I
So,
know. So, big fan over here,
yes,
Kerriann.
yes.
All right. So, Kerriann, thank you so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today and sharing your knowledge and insight about Long Island with the listeners. And again, I'm just going to tell everybody, please pick up one or two or more of her books. They're amazing and phenomenal. Even if you don't know anything at all about Long Island, New York, now you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Kerriann, for coming. And I'm going to sign up for your newsletter as soon as I get off and order my
Oh,
copy.
I'm so glad. Thank you, Ellie. And I want to thank everyone listening. I see Eva and Thomas like the program too. So
Yes.
thank you so much for having me. And I just really appreciate it. I appreciate the support very much, especially after coming off last year when my book tour was canceled for my past books. It was a challenge. So I do appreciate the support.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I'm glad that, and again, this is live and we go out to all the major stations after with the recording.
Hmm.
So again,
All right.
thank you, Kerriann. Thank you, Josie and Eva and Thomas for being here today. And code 2310.
There you go.
All right, Kerriann.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Thank
Ellie.
you. See you
Bye bye,
soon.
everyone.
Okay.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.